All right. Well, it is 6 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in Raleigh, North Carolina. And a part of the 2024 Stormwater Awareness Week, we wanted to put the spotlight on certain regions. And so in this first hour, we are going to look at Raleigh, North Carolina. And we've asked the city of Raleigh, their stormwater management team, to give us just a glimpse of what's it like in Raleigh. So our goal with this workshop is to have you get a taste of Raleigh, not just their stormwater program, but the people, the area, um, and the culture around how they're managing stormwater in Raleigh. So I want to introduce Ariel to you. She is one of the managers or directors with the stormwater program. In fact, Ariel, why don't you introduce your team real quick, and then I'm going to just give you the hour, and you can take it from here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel Bichelle, and I am the communications analyst for Raleigh Stormwater. So I manage all of the external communications that we do with the general public, as well as some internal within our staff and also collaborating with other city departments. And we also have Wayne Miles. Wayne, if you want to give a little bit of yourself too.
Sure. Good morning, Wayne Miles. I'm the stormwater manager. I've been with the city about 6 years, and before that, spent 30 years as a consultant working all over the country. So really enjoying working with the city here and look forward to introducing you to what we're doing in our team. Thanks, Ariel.
Absolutely. And we also have Kelly Daniel here.
Yes, my name is Kelly Daniel. I'm Raleigh's first flood early warning system project manager. So it's something we started just a few years ago, and we'll give you a little update on what we're doing.
And in the field where it's a little windy and a little bit rainy, we have a storm coming in actually. We have Heather Dutra.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Dutra. I oversee our water quality section, and I'm looking forward to presenting today. Thanks.
Thank you, Heather. And also Katie Dombrowski, who is in our communications department, helping us share more about our gravel wetland that we'll be talking about later on. So yeah, we can go ahead and start off and just talk a little bit about Raleigh. So it is the capital city of North Carolina with about 480,000 residents. And I think over the last few years, that number has continue to grow and grow. We are, one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, just overall. Right, not too far from Raleigh is also Durham, and in that area is also RTP, or Research Triangle Park. So we have a very wide connection of cities, towns, different neighborhoods. So very diverse area, lots of growth going on. Within the city of Raleigh, we have 36 watersheds. And I have, a map here that kind of showcases all of those watersheds that all of them eventually connect into the Neuse River, which is further downstream. And then just something fun, we are home to the Carolina Hurricanes and also the NC State Wolfpack, who had an amazing run last year in the NCAA and ACC tournament. So it was an amazing, amazing year for us here in Raleigh, North Carolina. So the stormwater program works with and also updates kind of two different groups of stakeholders. So our first one that we actually have monthly meetings with is the Stormwater Management Advisory Commission. And this commission advises and provides input on all of the services, programs, and projects that we offer. We hold monthly meetings with them and essentially just, give different updates on what we have going on in stormwater, and they provide their sort of outside stakeholder opinion, feedback on how we should move forward with our budgeting, how we should allocate our budget. They provide very important ideas on, our engagement with the community. So they are a very, important group for us to work with. And then we also have Raleigh City Council, which is a group of council members and also the mayor as well. And we meet with them as well to, again, give updates about what stormwater is doing. Sometimes we have to get their approval on certain projects depending on, the budget and things like that. So it's also important for them to know how we operate, what we do. And actually, we were able earlier this year to give one of our council members a very informative ride-along tour on our stormwater flusher truck, which was a really good immersive experience for her. She really appreciated it, and she was able to see firsthand how important our stormwater maintenance team is. So we always try our best to, get outside groups involved in our stormwater activities that we do. And here's just a brief history of Raleigh Stormwater. There's been a lot of growth since sort of when we were initially formed, which is 1985. In 2004, we actually had our stormwater utility fee created, which is actually brought by the help of Wayne, who was a consultant at the time. So he was one of the people to help start our stormwater utility fee. And since that fee, we've been able to implement a lot of different programs. Our Raleigh Rainwater Rewards program actually offers GSI to be installed on private property. And that program also provides cost sharing. So some residents are able to get up to 90% of cost sharing. So they would pay 10% and the city would pay 90%. And we actually have a subsidy program now that offers a full 100% cost sharing. We also have our drainage assistance program, which helps with drainage and erosion on private properties. And so we are able to have an application process for that. And also we, in 2023, had a green stormwater infrastructure policy approved by the city manager, which means that any land development that happens on it for a city property has to think and incorporate GSI on that property. So we are always trying to, lead the charge with installing GSI, and we will talk a lot more. Heather will give some more insight on our GSI. And then here's our mission and vision statement here, which just gives the overall understanding that we always want to be stormwater smart. We want to make sure that we are equitable in our communication, in our projects, CIP planning and management, in our floodplain management and how we budget. Just overall, we want to make sure that we are best serving the residents of Raleigh, and also doing all that we can to support our natural resources and preserve, all the resources and natural life that we have around us. Okay, and I will go ahead and pass it off to Heather and Katie, who are in the field, to talk more about our GSI, and we will actually be showing our gravel wetland that we have out there. So Katie, I'll go ahead and pass it off to you.
All right. Hopefully everyone can see us and hear us out here in the field. So again, I'm Heather Dutra. I'm so excited to be here to tell you about how the city of Raleigh is collaboratively and doing community-based GSI here in the city of Raleigh. As Ariel said, we aim to lead by example. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why GSI, and then I'm going to tell you about how GSI, and then I'll tell you a little bit about where we are and some of the features here on site. So why do we care about green stormwater infrastructure? Well, green stormwater infrastructure not only helps us to protect water quality, to recharge our groundwater supplies, to help with nuisance flooding, it also provides a lot of community health benefits. It provides enhancements to our natural ecosystem, and it can even serve as a tool for placemaking and education, which we'll talk about a little bit more today. And then, how are we actually implementing green stormwater infrastructure here at the city of Raleigh? Well, we're doing this in partnership. We couldn't be doing anything here that we are without the support of our city council, of our management, of our numerous internal partners in different departments, as well as our community partnerships. So Ariel did mention our GSI internal policy. And this is a really exciting opportunity for us to begin to prioritize green stormwater infrastructure at the start of every city development project. Previously, when we would wait until the end of a project to consider this above and beyond stormwater management, it'd often be cut, or it might delay projects or have unnecessary additional expenses. So now, with every city project manager considering green stormwater infrastructure at the beginning of a project design, there's a much better chance of that being holistically and thoughtfully incorporated into the development. So again, we have some wonderful GSI advocates in our plan review department that help private developers and internal project managers alike to help incorporate this GSI thoughtfully. Raleigh Stormwater also provides funding for design and construction of above and beyond green stormwater infrastructure. We know that our other internal departments have a lot of priorities and limited budget, so we're happy to step in and provide some additional funding to support this incorporation of this very important type of stormwater management. We also are maintaining our green stormwater infrastructure that we put in the ground because we know it's integral for the function of the device it's for the function of the device to be maintained from day one. And also because we know that that builds community trust and community acceptance of our devices as well. Finally, we'll talk a little bit more about our community partnerships a little bit later in my presentation. And then we'll also talk about equity a bit too. So I want to talk to you a little bit, speaking of equity, I want to talk about the place that we're at. It's a very special place. We're actually in Southeast Raleigh at the Walnut Creek Wetland Park. And there's quite a bit of history to this park and how it came to be. Historically, this was a underserved area. In fact, there was quite a lot of environmental degradation that occurred in this area. It actually is very close to Raleigh's first African American community, Rochester Heights, which was developed alongside these wonderful natural wetlands. But being where we are in this elevation, there was a lot of flooding that occurred. There was also a lot of dumping that occurred. Oh, and here comes the rain, perfect timing. And so there's actually an environmental justice movement that occurred here through some partners, community members that were empowered to do something about that environmental degradation and environmental injustice. And that was the Partners for Environmental Justice. They came about in 1995, and in 2009, this park, Walnut Creek Wetland Park, as well as a community center, was actually born out of that environmental justice movement. So that's a little bit about the place that we're at. And so, how are we today addressing those inequities from the past? Well, we are currently working in partnership with PEJ, Partners for Environmental Justice still, as well as other nonprofit partners like Sound Rivers, the Great Raleigh Cleanup, other government entities and local universities here at Walnut Creek Wetland Park to install devices like green stormwater infrastructure that helps to repair some of that environmental degradation from the past. All right, so we will get into this actual device here. This is one of many green stormwater infrastructure devices here at Walnut Creek Wetland Park. It is a subsurface gravel wetland. And Katie, if you'll walk with me, I'll kind of show you some of the elements of this. So you'll see that there's some runoff that comes off of rooftops and streets into two conveyances underneath the sidewalk. Hopefully we'll get torrential rain and you'll actually see that stormwater runoff entering into the device. But if not, you can imagine stormwater runoff carrying all those pollutants come into the device. Here it can actually hold 25,000 gallons of water above and below the surface of this subsurface gravel wetland. It is a basin similar to a bioretention basin. There's about a foot of wetland soil above about 2 feet of washed stone. And in that washed stone underground and in the wetland soil and taken up by plants, you can imagine that stormwater runoff can be stored and cleaned through natural processes. Now, I mentioned this is an innovative type of device, and it is. We don't actually have a lot of these here in North Carolina, although we're getting more and more every day. But we actually, if you see this big box here, it's a little bit out of place. This actually is a partnership with NC State University to monitor the water quality and quantity benefits of this device. And we hope collectively, with the data from subsurface gravel wetlands across the state, we can make this a creditable practice for use for regulatory requirements. So that's an exciting partnership here. I also just want to give a shout out to our Division of Water Resources, who actually provided a grant to help us construct this project as well, and do a monitoring and complete our creative educational display, which, Katie, do you want to walk that way? Along the way, you'll see that this is a very natural looking device. We do have manicured green stormwater infrastructure devices as well, but this was actually the community center and community's input that they wanted an outdoor classroom here. We're adjacent to a middle school, a greenway trail, and the community center. And so they wanted a device that had lots of different native plants for our pollinator species. And Katie, if you want to look at this fence real quick, this is not a usual bioretention or subsurface gravel wetland plant. This is actually muscadine grapes. They are starting to grow muscadine grapes here for the adjacent food forest that will be developed. So we love working in partnership with parks for all of these different benefits that GSI can provide. All right, we're just continuing to walk to see really the greatness of this device. It's about 5,000 square feet. And again, it can hold, like I said, up to 440 rain barrels worth of stormwater runoff during each storm event. Katie's spanning the second conveyance of stormwater runoff into the device. And if you guys were to visit here, there's actually other GSI devices here. It's a LEED certified building. The community center itself has a cistern. There's other green stormwater infrastructure like bioretention, the roadways. But I wanted to talk about this creative educational display. So we talked about community and community input, and we always want to do, stormwater management and something else for the community. So this is a great collaboration with Raleigh Arts. We also worked with a local artist, Derek Beasley. And if you can look at this device, I talked about dumping, and you can kind of see it maybe looks like a piece of, cement debris sticking out of the ground. So that was somewhat intentional. It is heralding back to the fact that this was dumping grounds, but it was really nice to hear, this is actually called the healing continuum. And this monolith actually not only represents the past, but also the positive collaboration that went into protecting this space and creating this community center. So it's not only a recognition of the past, but also representation of hope for the future. And if we come around to the other side, you see that there are some nice boulders for reflection and resting after you've been riding your bike on the Greenway Trail, or after you've been exploring the wetlands. And if you come over to this side, Raleigh Stormwater and Raleigh Arts and Derek Beasley worked together to actually put some information about the subsurface gravel wetland on this side. So it is also educating people about green stormwater infrastructure in somewhat of an artistic way. And you can see the different layers of the subsurface gravel wetland that I described earlier. I didn't mention, this is probably very important, that upturned elbow, it keeps that water level at a level right below the surface of the soil, so that those plants can access it easily and help clean that water. And if you look through this window, this is sort of an interactive aspect of the device, you can actually see the wetlands and in its many different seasonal variations when you're here reflecting and also learning about green stormwater infrastructure. All right, Katie, for our final stop, we're going to go ahead over here. And Ariel, I would welcome you. I know you have the slides. If you wanted to show after I kind of take a shot of our GSI visual monitoring station, maybe you can show some of the pictures that came from this station. Again, we always want to get community input into how we're doing our projects and continuously improve them so that the community can use them as community amenities and enjoy them as much as we do. So this is a very basic photo stand, and you can take pictures from the same location at different times. Now, I will say before there was not a monitoring box, so the pictures are a little prettier, but this is a temporary study. But if you can see the pictures on the screen, you'll see that we have community members that are using the Greenway, or the students from the school or the community center, they can all take pictures at different times, upload those photos, so we can create time lapse videos and sort of a story of the GSI as it grows and changes over time. And we can also get feedback from them on what they're enjoying seeing. You know, that will help us incorporate maybe specific plants into future devices that they really like. They can also tell us, hey, is there trash in the device? Are you seeing standing water? And that can help us have more boots on the ground to let us know that we need to come out more frequently to actually monitor or repair the device. So yeah, those are some ways. And if you see the picture, I also really enjoy when we get pictures uploaded with actual community members posing in front of our GSI devices, like that young girl. So anyway, it's a great way for us to have continuous feedback with our community that we serve. All right, I think that's all I have. Ariel, is that good?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you to you both for managing this in the elements. um, I know that it's raining a little bit while you guys are out there, but we really do appreciate you being out there and sharing, just the great work that and GSI that we have at that location. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And so I'll just, run through these as they mentioned, just as a recap. Just Walnut Creek Wetland Park, we have a lot here. Again, the subsurface gravel wetland, just an incredible educational opportunity to, share with the public that live in the area, and just, provide an opportunity for them to reflect and see exactly what we do have all around, the wetland. And again, we just have another great video here. We lead a great group of residents who, and I'll talk more about the learning network that we work with Partners for Environmental Justice to share, everything that we have in this area, and why it's important to incorporate GSI on properties across the city. And then, as Heather mentioned, again, the GSI visual monitoring program, again, another great way for residents to be involved. They can just come, take a photo, share it with us, and we're able to, monitor the health, the maintenance and structure of GSI. And, a lot of times residents, really do appreciate just being involved and having a way to interact. So, we have some quotes down here from residents. Someone said that saw some kind of nest made of dried plant material and loves the nature area here. So we're able to get that feedback, here back from residents directly. Again, a beautiful area, might make this a small hobby to visit this location and upload photos periodically. So that's, we really want residents to be engaged and involved. Okay, and I will go ahead now and pass it off to Kelly Daniel, who will talk about our flood early warning system. And he has a lot to share through our large network that we use to monitor storms. So Kelly, I will let you take it away.
All right, thanks, Ariel. I appreciate that. Hope everyone can hear me. I'm going to try. I'm not going to give the normal presentation, I guess you could say, that most people give. They have asked me to actually share some things on our flood early warning system program, some softwares we have developed, and other coordination and collaboration we've done with some partners. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I do a good job on doing this. All right. Wayne, let me know when you can see me. So, yeah. All right. Thanks, Wayne.
I see you, Kelly.
Appreciate it. So you don't have to look at me the whole time. I'm gonna let y'all see what we're starting to deal with this morning. Hopefully you can see the radar. We are just starting in the last few minutes. Heather started getting rained on. We're starting to get the beginning impacts of Hurricane Helene. Thankfully, we're not going to get the impacts that many people have across the southeast, but we will be potentially getting 1 to 2 inches, maybe a little bit more of rain today, and may get some street flooding and stuff like that. But want to talk to you a little bit about our flood early warning system program. How this kind of got started was we had Hurricane Matthew back in 2016, and then in 2018 Hurricane Florence. And in Hurricane Florence, they were predicting we could get up to 18 inches of rain in our location, and that was, for instance, to get a kind of your head wrapped around the number there, 18 inches of rain. Our 100-year storm event is between 7 to 8. So that's a lot of rain. And we were in the EOC, Emergency Operations Center there, preparing for that. There was a lot of preparation we did, sending out flyers and notifications and stuff, and reverse 911 calls to customers to prepare them who were in flood-prone areas. But during that event, and also prior to and during that event, we were thinking about a flood early warning system and program that we would need here in Raleigh to help us with these type situations, because we are not that far from the coast and we do get impacted by tropical storms and hurricanes quite often. So while we were in the EOC, we got the opportunity to collaborate with a lot of our IT partners and also transportation partners. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that as I go through this show and tell, so to speak. So one thing I wanted to kind of go through is kind of a step-by-step process of how we kind of deal with these storms. So we would have a kind of a prior to the storm event, during the storm event, and kind of a post-storm event. So as you can see, prior to the storm event, as we're doing today, we're monitoring the rainfall that's coming in, right? And we're seeing where it's the heaviest potentially at. Another thing we do prior, even before that, days in advance, we have software that we have developed with our consultant over the last 4 or 5 years. And I will say pretty much everything you're going to see today has been in the last 5 years, maybe even 6 years of development here with Raleigh. So one thing us and the consultant has developed is something called a what-if scenario. But in this what-if scenario, we have the ability to run forecasts of rainfall that we have using known models, rainfall models, and we can take those models and pull them into this what-if scenario, and it will give us a prediction of our stream elevations during the storm event. So this is an example of the one we have going on today. Hurricane, with now Tropical Storm Helene. It's what the system is thinking is going to happen in our creeks. Right now, with the 1 to 2 inches or so of rainfall, it's not predicting any roadway flooding from the rainfall. It is predicting some greenway flooding in some locations along our Walnut and Crabtree Creek, though. But as you can see, it shows the inundation of the creeks, and you can click on any point and it'll pull up a grid showing you the rise and what elevation it may potentially get to. Now, you can see how this could be extremely beneficial, as in it was for us. Example, the last storm we had in August was Tropical Storm Debbie. In Tropical Storm Debbie, we ran the what-if scenario about 2 or 3 days in advance, seeing that we were going to potentially have some minor flooding on Rose Lane. Rose Lane is a location where it is in southeast Raleigh. It's a one way in, one way out road for a community, and Walnut Creek runs under that roadway, and it was predicting the flood. So you can see how that could be an issue. It would cut the ability to egress back and forth to the community would be cut off until the waters recede, right? And then emergency management would have trouble getting in there as well. So what we were doing, we were seeing that this potentially could flood. Three things we did in this situation to prepare for the storm. Number one, we contacted our transportation partners who have some mobile signs. They took them out prior to the event, their electronic signs, and let them know that this roadway would potentially flood on certain date, right? And let the citizens in that area know. Another thing we did, we have access to our Wake County partners, what's called an Everbridge software. It's an ability to send out notifications to the public via cellular, 911, reverse 911, so to speak, information. So we work with our communication partners in the city and also the Wake County communication folks to send that out to them prior to the event and let them know there could be potential flooding going on in that area. And the next thing we did, I'm going to get off this screen, is we actually have a program where we have with Lake Johnson, which is one of our larger lakes in Raleigh. It's along Walnut Creek. And it's something we started, like I said, five or 6 years ago. We do have now the ability, we have a control on the gate out there, and it's remote, or where I can actually access it through the internet or through sorry about that. I can access it through the internet or actually my phone and push a button and open the gate, and we can remotely start lowering that lake. And it just works out right in this location with this lake, where pretty much if they're expecting us to get an inch of rain, that would actually fill the lake up about a foot. So it's plus or minus roughly for a little ways right in the spillway area. So what you might can see on this graph is going to work right for me. And the picture should line up with what's going on. You can see on about the third or fourth, we started lowering the lake and it was going down. We got an unexpected rain event that even the National Weather Service won't expect him of about 2 inches, which brought the lake back up about a foot above the spillway. And thankfully, we were able to continue to lower the lake. You can see the spillway starting to get dry there. And we were able to lower it to almost 2 feet below the spillway before the rain event. As you can see, when Tropical Storm Debbie came, it filled up rather quickly. It got to almost 2 feet above the spillway. So the rise was almost 4 feet during the event, probably about 3.5. And then after the event, it was running off. So this is something we do, and the reason we do this lowering is because one of the main reasons is because of Rose Lane, but to help prevent as much flooding downstream as possible. So we want to capture as much stormwater runoff we have in the Lake Johnson watershed, right? And we have been able to show through models that we have been able to stop the flooding or reduce the flooding that's going on at Rose Lane quite a bit. For example, prior to us doing this, Rose Lane would flood probably 1 or 2 times a year. And since this event, it hasn't since the last, I guess, 5 years since we've been doing this, I can't think of a time that it has flooded to the point where it was impassable. We've had probably up to 3 or 4 inches go across the road, and recently we had that. But excuse me. Now moving on to what we do during a storm event. So during a storm event, we have in our software that we developed what's called a gauge-adjusted radar rainfall. This has become a big help to us because not only can we, or prior to this, all we could see is if you see these little dots, these are where our rain gauges and stream gauges are across the city and the area. We would only know how much it rained in these spots, right? Now with gauge adjusted radar rainfall, we know spatially across the whole city, and now we recently expanded to the whole county how much it has potentially rained. And what happens with gauge adjusted radar rainfall, if you don't know, it takes the radar's estimate of the rainfall that's happened and recalibrates it with the existing rain gauge in that area, right? And it doesn't just use that one gauge, it uses all the gauges in case the one gauge is not reporting correctly. And as you can see, we have 5-minute data. We can click on any grid. I clicked on one here, and it gives you 5-minute data that comes up across, and we can stop at any point in time and see how much rainfall happened in that 5-minute time frame, how much has accumulated during the event, right? So one of the main reasons we developed the software is for stream gauge prediction, which I showed you a little bit of that, but this GAR is a big help in this. It can take this GAR data along with current stream information, how wet the soils are, the storm moisture content. There's about 20 different items. It has a hydraulic and a hydrologic models built into it as well. And it predicts what we call watch points. And these are our stream, some of our stream locations. It's a little bit harder to see right now, but hopefully you can tell there is a red line and a blue line. Now, if we were in a storm event, the red line would stop about halfway through the graph. And I'll show this bigger one here, because the red line is what's currently occurring. It's the observation, so to speak. The blue line is the prediction, so the system predicting out what's going to happen. And this was actually Tropical Storm Debbie, and this is Rose Lane. So the prediction was that it was going to flood by just a little bit, and it came within. I think it was right at 2 inches, maybe going over top in the road. So it did barely flood some. So you can see how this is extremely helpful. We can get this information during storm events because we're getting hours, maybe 2, 3, 4 hours notice in advance. We can let first responders know, 911. We can call them and let them know when roads may potentially flood, may be flooding, and they can block off the roads, or transportation can bring barricades out to block off the roads prior to that occurring. So this has been extremely helpful. Now, something else that we've been doing over the last couple of years, or actually the last 4 or 5 years, is something with the transportation cameras. So I know I told you that back in Hurricane Florence, we were in the Emergency Operations Center. And this is something that came from that. We were there looking and saw a camera that was near one of our stream gauges. And I talked with the assistant transportation director about that. We actually had a conference, if you want to call it, right then, and talked about it. And we agreed that Stormwater would buy cameras and transportation would put them up to go into their network as well. So you can see we have over 150 or so, maybe almost 200 cameras now that's across the city. And transportation uses them during good weather to monitor traffic and stormwater. Others can use them to monitor storm and rain events. And these are live, and you can see all the cameras here. We can see them from where maybe a creek may be flooding, or maybe we have a location such as this here at Atlantic and Hodges, where we have a poor drainage area, and during heavy rain events, this area can flood, and I've seen it flood multiple times, and we can let first responders know what's going on at the current time. So cameras have been an incredible advancement, so to speak, for us to see what's going on currently. We will be hopefully working in the next year or so with another company where we may be looking at using AI technology for the cameras to be smart cameras, so to speak, and be able to sense when an area is flooding and send notifications itself. So it's hard for me, or even 2 or 3 or 10 people, to look at all these cameras at one time, right? But that's something that AI can do, and we're hopeful that'll be something we can do in the next year or so. Now, some other things that we have done, we have installed flood warning sensors and signage along roadways in Raleigh. And what happens here is there are float sensors at the low point in the road, and when it starts to flood and the sensor is set off, it sends a signal to the signs so the motorists can see, and they'll start flashing, letting them know that there's high water in the area. It will also send notifications to us through text or email, or even call us on the phone if we want to. And we can know that location may be flooding, which is nice during thunderstorm events, which you may not be potentially watching at the time, that might just pop up. Also, what we can do with these, we can actually go on this website and we can actually manually start them flashing if we see something that's about to occur or maybe another situation we can actually manually start these flashing for the public to see. The software also has what we call a rules manager. And technically what it is, it's a system that can send us alerts and notifications for anything over here you see on the left side. So if you want to, and I'll talk about this in a moment, the depth, duration, frequency, if you want to see that, or a forecast, or let's say the GAR, for instance. Let's say if you have a location that you know if you get 1.5 inches in 30 minutes, that location is going to flood, right? So if the GAR senses 1.5 inches in 30 minutes, it can send you a notification if you set that rule up. Or if you have a gauge that gets to a certain elevation that you know is flooding, that maybe a greenway trail starts to flood at that elevation, or a roadway starts to flood at that elevation, it can send you a notification to let you know that is starting to occur. Or a prediction that may be on a watch point that may be that it's going to flood, it can send you a notification. So this is a great system here to be able to receive notifications, especially when you not be aware that something's going on at the time. Another thing that we have is kind of a in-storm, or is really a post-storm kind of thing, is depth, duration, frequencies. Now I just loaded the watersheds for this one because it would have taken them quite a while to load the one-by-one grid pixels that are in the GAR. But it can load that, and you can see it down to the 1-by-1 kilometer grid pixels. But what the depth, duration, frequency is doing here is letting us know, in this particular case, where a watershed has hit a 2-year storm event, 5-year storm event, 10-year, all the way up to a 1,000-year storm event. And it's any storm event from a 5-minute, storm event. Maybe it's a 5-minute, 10-year storm event, or it could be a 72-hour, 10-year storm event. So it has all those categories built in and lets you know what it has reached. So, for instance, in Debbie, the watershed here at Crabtree, part of the Crabtree watershed, had a 5-year storm event. So if you hover over it, it'll tell you 5 years. But the other thing about this is it'll tell you how far percentage it is to the next category, which would be a 10-year, right? So this event was a 5-year event, but it was 12% of the way to being a 10-year. And which is important with something like this. So this one was a 2-year storm event at the Bushy Creek watershed, but you can see it was 97% of the way to being a 5-year storm event. So that's pretty big information to know. And instead of just categorizing it as a 2-year event, it was pretty much a 5-year event, right? So that's important to know. So, all right, I think that's all I've got to show you guys this morning. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it was beneficial and for you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We appreciate it. Katie and Kelly. Thank you so much, Kelly, for giving us the inside scoop and sort of the back end view of the Fuse network. Kelly does an amazing job every storm to, make sure that Raleigh residents are safe. They're aware of what's going on around them, and so it's awesome to have that network, available to us to see what's going on in Raleigh. So I'll go ahead and start this back up here. So we'll talk a little bit about outreach and engagement throughout the city of Raleigh and Raleigh Stormwater. So overall, we want a diverse communications and engagement. We want to make sure that we are reaching out to all residents, making sure that all of our information is accessible, that we are being equitable in how we present our communications. And we also want to make sure that residents are feeling heard when it comes to stormwater in our policies and programs. And so we actually do watershed studies. We're going through watershed studies right now, and it's heavily influential with our communications that we provide to residents in Raleigh. And so this is actually from our Pigeon House watershed study, where we're collecting information from residents about what they saw around them, flooding, erosion, things like that. And we saw, as you can see from the map here, that we were missing some key gaps in our commercial properties and also in our apartments and condos and other renters. And so this kind of gives us sort of a guideline to what our engagement is like in these areas and these watersheds, and we can make sure to move forward in future watershed studies, but also just in our communication and engagement in general, to make sure that we are tapping into these communities that we may be missing otherwise. And so one way we are doing that is implementing more pop-up public meetings. And so these are smaller meetings that are usually held in the neighborhood or the actual site where the project is happening. And so we're able to bring the information directly to the people. It makes the project very personal to them. And it also allows for open conversation versus, residents showing up to a big public meeting or, a presentation style meeting. It allows them to have one-on-one conversation with our project managers and engineers about what's happening in their neighborhood. We also would like to start implementing more of our yard signs with QR codes. And so we actually did this with a recent Lions Park GSI project to get some feedback from residents about what they wanted to see in the park, what they actually use the park for. And we saw that over half or about half of the responses that we received from the survey were from the yard signs in Lions Park itself. So we thought that was a great success, and we plan to do more of this. Again, it offers that passive engagement, so we don't necessarily have to be out at the park to hear back from residents, but we can have a QR code for them to scan, and they can provide it directly to us. And again, it expands our reach to residents in the community. And we are also engaging our youth. So we offer a lot of different opportunities to get our youth involved. We have the Capture It Stormwater Art Contest, where it offers 8th to 12th graders to submit a piece of art. It could be a drawing, painting, or anything art related, or a 60-second video. And that offers students to think about stormwater, think about pollution and water quality, but also allow them to be creative and find ways to show why preserving water quality is important in a creative way. We also, with our recent projects, have led student tours. So we lead elementary students and also even in high school and middle school students through some of our projects that we've recently completed, and we explain what we did, why it's important, why it will help water quality in the area, and also get them to be a little creative and create posters or, again, artwork of what it's like or what they would do to stop water pollution and protect our resources around us. And as I mentioned before, we also have the Walnut Creek Watershed Learning Network. And this is a partnership with Partners for Environmental Justice. And we present to their residents. Usually they have about 10 to 15 residents who live in the Walnut Creek area. Again, it's made to get a lot of minority communities engaged and involved in watershed planning, environmental justice, green stormwater infrastructure, community science. And we actually just this year had an urban heat island session as well, learning network as well. So we are getting a lot of climate and stormwater related topics out to these residents in this area, and they're actually compensated for completing the entire network. So it's a great way to get residents involved with stormwater, and they are also champions at the end of the learning network to share more about stormwater. And so I'll pass it off to Wayne to talk more about our challenges and solutions.
Great. Thanks very much, Ariel, and nice job, Heather and Kelly, too. I'll just kind of wrap this up with some overall themes of the program. Our the team is already done a really nice job of giving you an overview of some of the key water quantity challenges and solutions we have, and water quality and green stormwater infrastructure. We really haven't touched much on aging infrastructure, but we have a very sophisticated asset management program, are very proactive in terms of our inspection and condition assessment, especially our underground assets that in the past have been out of sight, out of mind. We use risk modeling to help set priorities and are really working hard to increase our aging infrastructure program as well. Next slide, Ariel. And while we often present these individual solutions and programs in categories, I think it's really important to understand the collaboration and cross-cutting nature of all of these solutions. Really, none can be done in a vacuum. And Ariel mentioned our watershed studies. Those are really, those studies, I think, are the glue that help hold together all of these solutions, whether we're looking at flooding, the outreach and engagement with the community, the specific capital improvement projects to address neighborhood flooding issues or road flooding issues, and then always incorporating green stormwater infrastructure and other water quality issues into the overall solutions. Another example of that, the integration and collaboration of these solutions, Kelly talked about the Rose Lane flooding situation that does completely cut off a neighborhood of about 55 houses. And he talked about the warning signs and the notifications in the flood early warning system, and we have the blink link system there. We also have a capital improvement project that's under design right now to give that neighborhood an alternative, permanent, safe access that will help bring a further solution to that issue overall. So all of these program areas really need to be closely coordinated and collaborated, not only within stormwater, but as Heather mentioned, with other departments in the city as well. Ariel, go ahead and flip through these. I want to wrap up in just a few minutes so that we have a little bit of time if there are questions. And Heather touched on our overall GSI plan for the city that really has elements, 6 elements. Heather mentioned the lead by example. We're incorporating GSI on really all city development projects that we're looking at. We're looking at ways to incentivize GSI. Yeah, and go ahead and yeah, please keep going, Ariel. So instead of using gray infrastructure, the city's looking at wherever we can incorporate GSI, not only for regulatory requirements. We do have nutrient sensitive waterway rules from the Neuse River that we adhere to in Raleigh, but we want to go well above and beyond that as well. And our Parks Department is a great collaborator. There's a very large parks bond that a number of projects are being implemented, and we're looking how we can incorporate GSI into every one of those. A couple big high profile projects that are under construction right now: Gibson Play Plaza at Dix Park, and our new City Hall, the Civic Tower, which if you hear any construction out my window, that's what's being built right next door. So that tower, high profile project, will have green roofs, suspended pavement out in front of it with tree boxes to store stormwater. So we really want to lead by example and put our money where our mouth is too, in terms of investing in these technologies. Heather mentioned the Rainwater Rewards program. This is a very widespread program, cost share program that we've done almost 200 projects now all across the city, and that constructs green stormwater infrastructure on private property. And then the cost share program as well has a 100% subsidy program where income thresholds less than 80% AMI, rent thresholds, and nonprofits are engaged, that we can provide additional funding to pay 100% of the cost of that green stormwater infrastructure. And you get a flavor here for the variety of projects. It could be green roofs, it could be permeable pavement, it could be cisterns. We've worked with food banks and urban farms to build cisterns. And it's really been, I think, a very successful, not only water quality improvement, but engagement program as well. We look closely at our codes. We have written rezoning conditions that encourage GSI, so developers, when they're going to rezone properties, can offer rezoning conditions that would be amenable to improve stormwater. And that helps the community get behind the rezoning oftentimes as well. So continue to look at this very, very comprehensively. We've updated our design manual. We provide a lot of literature and engagement information. We've changed our design manual to really be more focused on GSI and to have a lot more flexibility in terms of design, and our ability to update and reflecting the climate change and changes of types of storms that we're seeing as well. So, and the last point I'd like to make, and this is another collaborative effort with our Parks Department. Our Parks folks bring a lot of horticultural expertise. They have a greenway. I'm seeing a greenhouse program. And so we're working closely with them. They're helping to grow the plants and selecting the plants that are going to work best in our green stormwater infrastructure devices. And then we have recently, in this year's fiscal year budget, the stormwater utility is funding a green stormwater infrastructure maintenance crew that will be housed in the Parks Department. And so they'll be responsible for maintaining GSI and stormwater control measures across the city for all departments, and that'll be funded by the stormwater program. And we've already started getting a lot of good feedback from the Parks group and the maintenance group on how to design our GSI better, so that maintenance is in mind right from day one, and help facilitate the overall performance and long-term sustainability of those devices. So let me just close, because I know we're getting close. Thanks to the team. I'm gonna make one more point. Our real secret weapon here in Raleigh is our team. You heard from a few of them. All have done an excellent job. Kudos to you all. We've got a number of other great people that are on our team. But, you know, I always tell our team the most important thing that we can do is hire good people, train them, support them, guide them, and then get out of the way and let them do great things for the community. And I think that's what we've done here in Raleigh. So appreciate everyone's attention and joining us today, especially early on the West Coast. And thanks for the time. Enjoyed it very much.
Well, Wayne, it is obvious you've hired an awesome team. That was an amazing presentation. I feel like I got to know Raleigh a whole lot more in this last hour. In fact, it's made me want to go visit you all in person. So I am looking forward to the time where I can get out there and see that for myself. But thank you again to each of you for that. I don't know if we have any.
I'm good.
Let's see. I don't know if we have any questions in the chat that haven't already been answered, but we're just about out of time, anyways. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, Wayne, wants to inquire more, how should they do that? Or Ariel, do you have a contact slide you can throw up on the screen, or maybe put it in the chat?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep, and then RaleighNC.gov is our website. My contact information is there as well. Please reach out, send me an email, and I'd be glad to put you in touch with any of our team who can answer more detailed questions if you have them.
All right.
Thanks for the opportunity. We really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you later. And I got to get a flight to Calgary right now, so I'll see you. I got to get up there for the next regional. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.